quite a few letters over the years about what comprises a collectible gun. What a huge question. No wonder it took me years to answer it. There really is no answer. All kinds of guns become collectible. For example, I recently learned that the Browning Satori, I had that trap model. I think we made a video on it. And then, of course, I can't keep all these guns, so I have to sell them. So I put it up for sale. I put it at a reasonable price, and quite a number of people wanted to buy the shotgun. But I learned how much guns have gone up in value. The new Browning Satori, which, in case you don't know, is an over and under shotgun, in many cases over $2,000. The older models, I would say, are a steal, and normally what happens, the older models are undervalued and the newer models may be overvalued. So an equilibrium eventually sets in. I was happy to sell the Satori, but I have a feeling those will move up in value, so that comes to mind. But what I have on the table is just an example of some rifles that you might not be familiar with, but some are fairly common that I think are excellent to own and shoot and collect. And then finally, and probably the star of the show, and I should just start with it, is this Chiappa or Chiappa. I can pronounce things any way you like. No matter which way I pronounce it, there are people who say, I don't know what I'm talking about, which may be true. This is actually made by Chiappa in Italy. So you know they have first-class workmanship, beautiful color, hardening. This one is in an ideal caliber. It's 22 long rifle, although I tried shorts. It didn't have any longs. And it's a tack driver, as they say. And maybe what I'll do is we'll just look at it quickly. So color case hardening, straight grip stock. All of you that own the full-size original Sharps rifle, which I've owned, but I didn't have any for a few years. And you're 100% correct. You know that I like falling blocks, and definitely the Sharps, old reliable, although this isn't an old reliable, but the mechanism is one of those classic rifles. And sometimes I get wonderful letters where people talk about efficiency and ballistics and that kind of thing. And that's always compelling to talk about, because I guess we want efficient rifles and shotguns. But the whole concept of hunting and collecting and guns and shooting really isn't about efficiency. If it was, we all know what we could be carrying. A lot of the time we carry weapons or rifles that are in a sense out of date and never worked all that perfectly in the first place. That doesn't really relate to the Sharps, but it has very interesting operations. So for those of you that don't know, falling block means that the block falls through the action. So there's the block. We lower the lever or lever, and then we get access to the chamber, which is right here. This is always tricky to film, but you can see access is fairly easy. I'll drop this sight. That's one of those aperture sights. It came with the rifle. So drop the block, drop in a 22 shell, close the block, and on the Sharps, this is the mini Sharps, of course, now you have to move the hammer back. And I was told to do that, so now the action is cocked. Of course, no cartridge. And the book that came with the rifle specifically pointed out never dry fire this particular one. A lot of people don't dry fire any rim fire, and that may be good advice, although I seem to get away with it. But in this case, the firing pin is so offset. You can see that's the firing pin on the side of the action, because this action in the full size was at one time a percussion firearm, so it had to work differently. We would have to talk about that another time. Anyway, it has a set trigger, which I won't set, but it works perfectly. And to release, it's the same old pull the trigger and lower the action. So getting back to the basic characteristics, it has an excellent octagonal barrel. It's very light. It's not as light as it could be, because the barrel's quite long, as you can see, and quite heavy, and naturally every barrel is going to be heavier the smaller the caliber that it's made for. In fact, when I can, if there's an octagonal barrel, I try to buy the largest caliber, like 38-55 in a Model 94, excuse me. But there, you get the point. A big hole weighs less. Anyhow, you're 100% right out there. The Sharps is great. Probably the most classic falling block, and I wouldn't hesitate to go hunting with one. I wish I could get one of these in 30-30. I think they made at least some of the mini Sharps, because the full-size Sharps is a super robust action, but arguably there's a lot of extra steel there. Anyhow, so that's the Sharps, and mini Sharps. I hope they keep making them. So that's how the video kind of started out. I thought I'll show you that, and then I started looking around, because a lot of people like small actions, and a lot of people were writing me about what to buy when you're fed up with bolt actions. And yeah, the falling blocks are a natural answer, and single shots of any kind are very collectible, very interesting. So I thought what I'll do is, if you can keep this Sharps in mind, and here's that baby Hagen, which is even smaller than the mini Sharps, and that again you can see the falling block. I still believe the Hagen is the best falling block action that I've ever encountered, but you know, everybody has an opinion, and every opinion is valid in a way. I just like these, and here I'll show you the breech on this one. You can see this is not a 22. What's really funny about this rifle, well, I don't know if it's funny, but it's interesting, is that it's a 223. Everybody that picks this rifle up, and you can see beautiful color case hardening, beautiful quarter rib with tally. It's machined for tally bases, barrel band front sight. It has all the features of a best quality falling block, like from Martin Hagen or Ralph Martini or Hartmann and Weiss, but it's just a 22. Tiny little gun, roller safety. Anyway, I probably lost my train of thought. But yeah, color case hardening, and I'll try to hold them next to one another. You can see this mini Sharps doesn't look so mini when it's next to the Hagen. Anyway, I can only hold them so long. So I'll set that down. Hagens, of course, are very collectible, but very expensive. This is not. I think this was close to $1,000, which is still a lot of money, but for what you're getting, it's an excellent value. I lost my train of thought with that one. Maybe it'll come back to me. But in the category of very affordable and still to me fantastic is a Stevens that I picked up not that long ago. And there's just something about this rifle. It's in 25 rimfire, and I'm going to be making the video that you asked me to make about rimfire cartridges, because there are so many interesting rimfire cartridges that have been unfortunately discontinued. This one's 25 rimfire. I didn't expect the bore to look like anything, but just have a look at this action. It's called a Marksman 12 action, and I thought it's just going to be another break open, and it's actually very elegant how it works. You know, you have to have kind of an appreciation for this thing. A lot of people would just say, you know, I'm misguided, but this is quite a lovely little action. And I was looking at the 25 rimfire dimensions. I should give the camera people a chance to focus in on that. So of course that's, I'll just walk you through. You open, there's the breech, and you close, and then you're good to go. The bore's, like I said, very good, and I bought a bunch of 5mm rimfire ammunition, Aguila or Aguila, again, depending on how you pronounce things. makes those rounds again for the Remington 5mm, which we'll talk about. And I think I can get 25 rimfire out of the 5mm, so we'll have to work on that and see. So we've looked at these, and yeah, definitely collectible, and I think far too cheap. And you know, one could put a liner, a 22 caliber liner in. A lot of people do that. There are fellows, I know one guy, I just can't remember his name. Of course, you have to bore out the barrel, and then he epoxies in a brand new 22 liner from Brownells. I think he was in Washington somewhere. Anyway, this one I brought out just because you can't talk about small guns and small actions without bringing up Rook rifles. We've looked at this before, and in case you missed that video, you can see how beautifully engraved the receiver is on this. Some people don't like it, but I think it's got a lot of character. Hammerless design, which just means kind of the hammer is hidden inside here, unless it's a striker. I'm not sure. Yeah, I mean, it could be a striker in there. Maybe I even took it apart and I can't remember, but everything's perfect the way it should be. This is by Riley in London. I think I read that just before filming. Yeah, Oxford Street, London. Just a wonderful little rifle. But again, it's that, you know, break action or snap action. I'm not sure what the technical term is, but it's lovely. 300 Rook Rifle is the caliber. I haven't forgotten to tell you the calibers of the others. People always write me because sometimes the most obvious thing slips my mind during filming. But that's the Rook Rifle. Anytime you can get a Rook Rifle, I mean, that's very collectible, more and more scarce. This one is really, I have to say, on life support. It's made in Belgium. It's a 410, but I'm not sure what kind of 410. And I brought it out, like I said, it's been on the workbench for a long time. Maybe we've seen it before. I don't know if I have a lighter. I mean, this is a pound and a half, but it needs a lot of loving care and attention. Very small action. These you can frequently pick up for $50 or $100. Sometimes you'll get a freezer bag with the action parts, some broken parts, some lawnmower parts, and out of that you can get this if you care to do that kind of thing. But it sure is a sweet handling little shotgun. And side opening. They even offset the hammer. I don't know if you can focus in on the hammer. But there's a lot of art in this little piece. Very narrow frame, quite short. Some of them, they're deeper and they're still narrow. I always think of them like fish frames because they kind of look like a fish to me. So anyway, I don't know what that means, but if you come across something interesting for under $100, it's probably worth buying and tinkering with. And then this is the Dakota Ten. It's actually quite a history to this particular rifle. So Dakota was started by Don Allen. I knew Don, and this is essentially a Hagen Action. And there were conversations about the, patents and stuff like that, but there's not that huge a market for falling blocks. The firing pin is offset on this Dakota number 10. You can see it's not that different in size from the mini sharps. You're losing a view of that. Hard to see. Anyway, beautiful color case hardening, and I think I showed you this one before. This one I take to the range when I just feel like shooting some targets. It's in 45 ACP, which is a very quiet and nice round to use, and I've used it for different purposes. Anyway, falling block. I've got this cool 2.5 power Schmidt & Bender, but it kind of blocks your view. These are Tally rings, color case hardened. I don't know if you can film here, but you can figure out what I'm talking about. So that's how it works, and it's under spring tension. It's actually kind of a more mass-producible version of the Hagen, and I've always liked them. Don was a great guy. and had to leave far too soon. But anyway, there it is, Dakota number 10. I think they're still being made. Just lovely. This one worked out really well. And that about summarizes some collectible rifles and a very interesting, let's stick with Chiappa, because a fellow from Italy said that's how it should be pronounced, so hopefully he knows. I'll take that up again. This is definitely a keeper for me. Now, the way my mind works is this thing is lovely. I'm sure designed for long distance shooting with a 22 because it has this fancy Tang aperture sight, which is great. But I mean, if I wanted to take it into the woods, like I said, the way my mind works is I'll probably send it to somebody and have the barrel turned half round, half octagon, and shortened, because this could be as light as that small Hagen. And this one, I mean, if you have something that is that small, you may as well have something that's light. It just kind of, in my mind, goes together. And that's actually a worthwhile footnote. I notice a lot of times people will have an Action that's very light, and then they'll put a heavy barrel or one of those like Dirigible, one of those like blimp scopes, and then it's not light anymore. Maybe if the Action is light like this is, it would be good to have a entirely light rig. Anyway, there must be a sport that I don't know of attached to this long octagonal barrel, and it's definitely accurate. Chiappa Firearms, Italy. Yeah, so that's about it. And gee, I hope everything's going well for you out there. Guess we're moving into the holiday season. I sort of set aside my other work. We're hoping to film a few videos. Unfortunately, our main computer failed, so we have some issues. If the videos look a little worse than usual, please forgive us. And like I said, yeah, take care, and we'll see you on the next video. And if you can help the channel in any way or join us on Patreon, where we look at even more guns, that would be wonderful. All right, we'll see you next time. Bye.